In this video, I'm walking you through the basic settings of a search campaign that we use at Inbound Revenue when we're setting up search campaigns for our clients or for ourselves for that matter. So let me walk you through these basic settings, and I'm going to show you a little bit about everything that I'm going to be covering in this, you could call it a course, I guess. It's all going to be free on YouTube. So in this section, I'm going to walk you through search campaign settings, campaign type, goal, which in our case is no goal, search partners and display, location targeting options, targeting exclusions, bid strategy options for launch, certain things that you should make sure are unchecked. So let's dive right into it. So when you go into your Google Ads interface, there's a couple of places that you can start a new campaign. I'm at the overview level here. You can hit this new campaign button. For some reason, I'm an old dog and I've been doing this a while. I always go in here and just hit this blue button, create campaign, and I'm going to say new campaign. And then one of the first things that we do a little differently is we start with create a campaign without goal guidance. What's going to happen if you select one of these goal guidances? It's just going to change the order of which questions are asked and the type of questions that are asked. We don't want that. We just want to create this without a goal guidance. We're going to set up our conversions anyway for call tracking and lead tracking and form tracking and call extensions. So we don't really need to set this up through one of these objectives. These are more for beginners. So we're going to choose that. We're going to select search. There's a lot of different types here. We want search because that's what we use typically. We're just going to say continue. We're going to leave these unchecked and we're going to continue. And that takes us to the point where we're creating our name for our campaign. And we typically do is I'm going to give it month and a year when it was created. And I'm going to say it's a search campaign. And I'm going to say it's for a landscape, if I could type, and design. So that's what we'll do in some of our, that's what we'll do in some of our other lessons. We'll look up keywords and add copy for landscape and design. But for right now, let's just hit continue. One note before I do hit continue, this is nomenclature that we often use for setting up our campaigns, and we put the month and the year here because it's helpful sometimes when you pull up an account and there's 40 or 50 campaigns that have been in there because the clients were like super active in the past or they've tried a lot of different things. This tells you, hey, when this is the year, the month that this was tried. It's a search campaign and here's what it was for. So we can also add other things. We sometimes do like phrase match, broad match if we need more description. But that campaign name should be easy to read, which is why we use the pipes between each section and why we give it some management-friendly name. Management-friendly meaning that it makes it easier for you to manage your Google Ads campaigns. You come in here, you see a name, it makes sense, boom, you know what you're into. So we're going to start new, not any of those other ones that I've created. We're going to focus on clicks in this case. We're going to go ahead and come back and change that later anyway. So they've changed the interface a little bit. So this is the first time I've actually built a campaign with the new interface. But the first two things that you want to note is we want to turn these off. Google Search Partners, some people still turn this on and check it out later. The way this Google Search Partners work is this is not Google.com where you go to search for something. These are people that are quote unquote partners of Google that have either a search bar on their website somewhere or they partner in Google in some other way. And we typically turn that off. It used to be you could get a few good conversions using search partners, but it's my experience now that that's mostly junk and sometimes will simply overtake your campaign. There's no particular good reason to have it on. Display, you should never have on. If you want to turn display, if you want to run a display campaign, you can run that separately. You don't want it as part of your search campaign. So we definitely don't want to target all countries and territories. And I'm going to walk you through locations because there's a lot that goes on here in locations. But I'll walk you through some of the key things. So typically you're going to want to target a number of things. You may want to target city, a zip code, a county. The main thing that you want to think about when you're targeting is it is whatever market you can serve. So you don't want to go into a whole state if you're only serving half the state. It's going to waste your ad spend. So let's just say we want to target Atlanta. And again, my spelling issues come up. But you can see Atlanta, Georgia. So now I can pick the city of Atlanta or I can pick the Nielsen DMA region. That's going to cover a big section around Atlanta. And you may want that if you serve that. Or you can just say, I want to include Atlanta. Now, if we go to advanced search, that allows us to do a radius search, and this is super useful. So what you want to do is you want to set out how many miles, and then you want to enter city, zip, etc. And I'm going to go with Atlanta again, and I'm going to say we want to target 30 miles around Atlanta, because that's how far my trucks can go. That's how far my people can go and still make money in this imaginary landscaping company that I'm setting up here. So now you see we've got a huge circle around Atlanta. If that's too big, you can adjust it here by going in here and say, okay, I only want that to be 15 miles, and then let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's more reasonable. Here I got all the suburbs and everything. And if you want to, you can still add locations. Like, let's say we wanted to hit Marietta, because that's a big growing area and we want to be in Marietta, so we just add that. So there you can see we've added that, and now we're happy with our locations. We're going to hit save. A couple other things that you want to note here under location options, you want to, this is super important, and we'll come back and touch on exclusions a little bit later here, but this is super important. You want presence of people in or regularly in your locations. You don't want people who've shown interest in your locations. This is where we're going to get searches from way outside your locations. So the other thing that I want to note here, you can exclude. Let's say I wanted to exclude, let's see, let's take a look and see, well, what's another city in Georgia? Let's say I wanted to exclude South Carolina, because I just want to make sure that there's no searches ever coming in from South Carolina. So here I'm going to exclude South Carolina. So boom, I've got my included locations, I've got my excluded locations. Typically when you exclude locations, you want to build a circle around your included areas and maybe exclude counties. That way Google search, which isn't 100%, will be more likely to target just the area that you want to target. So South Carolina is probably not the optimal, but that just goes to show you, you can exclude areas, and what's going to happen then is you will not see those areas in. So here's Atlanta. We've excluded South Carolina, so you should never see a search from South Carolina. Now, you shouldn't see a search from South Carolina anyway when you're targeting Atlanta, but Google does some crazy things. But typically what you might do is exclude a bunch of counties around Atlanta and cities around your market area, just to make sure that your ads don't bleed over into those areas. And I'll go through that in more detail in a future video. I just want to show you that you can exclude locations as well. So now you've got your locations that you want to target. You've got a variety of them here. You've got your exclusions. You've got this set to people in or regularly in. Now, we typically will go to all languages. So this option, it's default set to English. People's browsers are set to whatever language they want to use. So we typically go with all languages. There's not a lot of pushback from anyone on that, but some people do just go with English. In some cases, especially if you're in an area that has a lot of non-English speakers who might be seeking jobs, you might want to just go with English. But all languages, allows you to reach everyone no matter what their browser settings are. We don't really deal with audience segments at this point. We want to make sure that broad match keywords is off. We want to make sure that automatically created assets are off as well. So we don't want Google creating assets for us. That's super important. So make sure you're only the assets I provide directly for my ads. And when you're talking about assets for Google Ads, you're typically talking about extensions like call extensions and site links and things of this nature. Google will go hog wild creating assets for you. You don't want that to happen. And under more settings, we've got ad rotation, which typically is optimized, best performing ads. That's fine. Ad schedule later on in a future video, but you can set the days and times that your ads run here. And then if you're advertising a brand, most local service businesses don't really have to worry about that. And here's the option to have an end date. That's perfect if you're running a holiday special or something and you have a specific end date. Most times when someone's done running a campaign, they just pause it. So we'll just go to the next, and there you've hit your most important settings for the startup. The key ones that we wanted to touch on were the campaign type, that you select no goal, turn off search partners, turn off display, make sure you're targeting the exact locations to the best of your ability that you want to target, exclude things that you don't want to target, and we'll get into bid strategy, but we chose clicks, and we'll get into bid strategy options in another video. We do want to make sure that we uncheck auto apply and that broad match is unchecked. So that's everything that I wanted to cover in this video, and hopefully this has been useful to you.